Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Five Heart Podcast, brought to you by CoordNation.com, part of the SB Nation Podcast Network. I'm your host, Greg Mahochko, joined as always by our founder and fearless leader, John Dam Johnston. Hello, John.
Hi.
How are you?
I am mediocre at
Fair
best.
enough. And we've already been warned, folks. John's headache right now is on a 6.5 scale out of 10. So we'll make this as quick and painless for him as possible, which in turn makes it quick and painless for everybody.
No, it's going to be painful for fucking somebody.
Hey, if it's painful for fucking somebody, then you might want to go to the doctor and get that checked out. Anyway, also, we are joined by, as always, Todd Wolverton. Hi, Todd.
Greg, how's it going in Illinois?
Was over 50 degrees today, so fewer complaints than last week.
There you go. There you go. Love the tropical February that we're experiencing in some parts of the Midwest.
It's tremendous.
It's 23 degrees here.
It is a well-known fact that I hate winter. Winter sports are fine. Winter Olympics are okay. Winter weather can kiss my ass. So I don't care for it. I have been on this particular pedestal since I found out that snow days had to be made up in June. As soon as I realized that, I said, no, we don't need any of that snow shit. I'm of the belief not to make things we're never supposed to discuss politics or religion, but I'm of the belief that the only snow that you should have should be Christmas morning, and it should be melted by noon.
I could live with that.
Have you ever heard of Wim Hof? Either of you ever heard of Wim Hof? Okay, Wim Hof is this, you can go out, it's WIMHOF, that's his name. He has run a half marathon barefoot above the Arctic Circle. He has set tons of records for cold endurance. Is an amazing person to read about and an amazing person to, he has these philosophies about breathing, because I have this headache and it never goes away, and there's nothing they can do for it really, unless I start taking really, really mind altering or mood altering and really just intrusive drugs. But
which you've done before. You've taken some of those medications in the past.
I have.
And obviously you didn't care for them. And folks, we encourage you to read more about it in Been Dead, Never Been to Paris, a true story by John Johnston, available right now on Amazon.com.
It's never been to Europe, but I've never been to Paris either.
I thought it was never been to Paris. I said last week I said Paris, and you didn't correct me.
I know. I don't correct anybody. I just
I feel bad now.
Okay, Wim Hof has this thing about taking cold showers, okay? And I was finding winter completely intolerable until I started taking his advice. And actually, I take a hot shower, and like in the last 2 minutes, I turned it to cold. And what it's done for me is it's made me, I endure the cold much better than I ever have. And it's been a game changer, as the productivity experts would say. There it is. There's the book. Yeah.
Hold on.
You know what I did this week?
Did you do it in the shower?
Yeah. I turned my second book into my editor.
Congratulations, John.
It'll be called Manage Your Damage. And it is specifically targeted at heart attack survivors. It's about all the strategies I use to overcome anxiety, depression. This has nothing to do with Nebraska sports. Are we just going to keep on this track?
Let's talk Nebraska sports.
What do you want, Todd? What do you want?
Wait. Before we get there, time out, everybody. Want to thank this week's unofficial sponsor.
That sounded like a gun.
It looks like a Yingling.
Oh, Yingling.
I gotta turn off my virtual background. Sorry, everybody. You got to see my house behind me. But yes, Yingling
Leadle.
Yes, I won this at an auction, a silent auction for my son's school.
How much? A beer? What?
I won 20 beers, John, and a cooler it came in.
For your son's school.
It's a Catholic school.
Oh, God.
I also, so here's the fun thing, and I'm glad we're having this production conversation out here for the world. The week of July 16th to the 22nd, you guys will have to proceed without me. I also won in the live auction portion a vacation, a week getaway with me and my family to the illustrious Never Before Have I Been Wisconsin Dells.
Oh.
So, and thank God it's in July and not December, or I'd tell them to right off going to Wisconsin in December like a moron.
I think I've been there, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
it'll be fun. But yes, I won beer at a grade school dinner auction.
Well,
And
it's
a trip to Wisconsin.
Catholic Schools Week. So our last week was Catholic Schools Week.
Yep, that's true. So, Nebraska athletics, guys. There's some things going on. There's a basketball game going on right now.
I'm watching it.
And what's the score, John? And tell us where we're
it's
at
on
with
commercial. We're ahead. It's not commercial. I think it's halftime. We're ahead.
We're ahead?
We're beating Minnesota. Are we going to talk about basketball? You ready to talk about basketball, Greg? Are you ready?
No, I think I would rather talk about badminton than talk about Nebraska men's basketball right now.
This seems to be the problem.
Nobody wants to talk about it?
No, but
everybody's talking about it.
Everybody wants to talk about it for the wrong fucking reason. Everybody wants that. The only conversation everybody is happening is let's fire Fred Hoiberg, which is the dumbest fucking conversation I can think of about basketball right now.
I did while you're talking about that specifically, and with Coach Fred, that's what I call him. You know, when I text him late at night, it's Coach Fred. But one of the tweets specifically that I saw said that the game of college basketball had passed him by. Now, I like both of your reactions. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm saying that's some of the criticism that has come out against Coach Hoiberg. It is Nebraska's difference because they're going through. They haven't had really a solid roster since Coach Hoiberg got here. You know, it famously, you know, from the team he inherited from Tim Miles, there was the young man. I apologize. I'm going to forget names or you know, because I didn't pay close enough attention when they were on the team, who was either he was injured or he was in that transfer year. So he was ineligible. So he played, but Thor was the only person who played minutes for Nebraska who was retained by Coach Hoiberg. So it's been nothing but roster turnover. Is that the biggest? And I know we're, you know, oddly enough, we're talking about this in a time when the football program, you know, it just pulled so heavily from the transfer portal, but a football roster is significantly larger than a basketball roster. So I don't want to necessarily equate apples and Buicks. So in basketball, when you're turning over the roster as frequently as has happened at Nebraska under Coach Hoiberg, I feel like maybe there isn't the opportunity for that cohesive cohesion. I'll change the word completely. Just cohesion. You know, they're not able to gel. Is that what we're seeing? I remember his first year here, they spent, you know, a week or two in Europe, you know, in Italy or something like that, you know, trying to get all these new players together and bonding, you know, while playing abroad. And we didn't see really any on the court benefit of that, you know, like the results, the record at the end of the season.
You know what? This is his third year. His first year, he got hired after recruiting has already taken place. His second year, they had COVID, and Nebraska was forced to jam their fucking schedule together. How many games did they play in 14 days? You know, Michigan
13?
got a break. They're at the top of the conference, so they get a break, and they got to stretch their schedule out. Nebraska had their schedule crammed and condensed, and nobody bothers to bring that up when they talk about this shit. Nobody bothers. Since we're talking about basketball, we have to make football references.
Sorry.
We have the Golden Boy in his fourth fucking year going 3-9 in one of the worst divisions in college football. He hasn't figured out how to play well in the Big Ten. And you think you're going to bring in a coach to the worst basketball program in a power conference, and he's going to figure out how to recruit to the shitty school he's coaching at and play basketball in probably the toughest conference in the nation. And you want him fired? Fuck you.
Not me. I'm not advocating for his removal.
I get
wanna
that,
say
but that's a
Also-
fuck you to everybody that wants him fired. Because
Also, this is important. Disclaimer: thoughts by John Johnston are purely John Johnston's and not necessarily those of the 5 Heart Podcast, SB Nation, Vox Media, or any of its subsidiaries.
You know,
you got to come into a conference and you have to figure out how to play in that conference. And the Big Ten is particularly a nasty conference because you get picking up a road win in the Big Ten is like hell. It's not the same as football, but I don't think there's 90% of Nebraska fans don't even pay attention to basketball enough to know that. You wouldn't know that Michigan State, for example, wins 86% of their fucking games at home, probably because you don't care. Basketball is a sport at Nebraska that we pay attention to after football is ended and before baseball starts. It's an afterthought until it's really shitty. And then we can get on the radio or Steve Sipple can write fucking columns about it, but he's too gutless to write about his golden boy, Scott Frost. Because if he wrote those fucking articles about Scott Frost, Tom Osborne wouldn't talk to him anymore.
You know, I'll tell you what, guys, I have been, I'm not a basketball fan. I pay attention because I'm fascinated by, the coaches and coaches' philosophies and that kind of stuff. Fred Hoiberg, I've been following Fred Hoiberg since he was the mayor. And when I'm not talking the mayor playing at Iowa State, I'm talking about when he was the mayor at Ames High School. Fred Hoiberg knows the game of basketball. There are some things that people either are overlooking or they're not looking at things through a clear lens. Nobody is more disappointed and discouraged about the performance of the team this year than Fred Hoiberg. And it's easy for Nebraska fans to sit back and say, this wasn't supposed to happen. Why aren't they winning games? He's got all this talent. People saying the game has passed him by. Oh my God. That's one of the most ridiculous things I've heard. What people have to understand is that they want to equate his success with the success that he had at Iowa State. And the circumstances at Iowa State were significantly different than the circumstances that he found himself in at Nebraska. He walked into a situation in Ames where he had a good, solid core of players that were already at Iowa State with strong leadership skills and hard, strong work ethic. And then all he had to do initially was recruit some talent to put with those guys. And that's what he did. And he got off to a good start. You guys have already mentioned it. When he came to Nebraska, he had Thor. And then he tries in a short period of time to cobble together some kind of roster for that first season. So, the reality is that Fred Hoiberg, the whole basketball world, college basketball world, is shocked that Fred Hoiberg his team is this bad this year. This is surprising to everyone. It's not just Nebraska fans who want to see those wins. My take on this is that he walked in here with a hell of a resume, and he is recruiting basketball players to the type of system that he believes gives them the best chance to win. That's what Scott Frost originally did too. And we've talked a lot about how Coach Frost has changed his philosophy a little bit since he figured out what the Big Ten is all about. Hoiberg has the capacity to do that too. And that better be on the top of his list, is that he may have to adjust the style of basketball a little bit more than what he is to compete in this conference. It's just like SEC football. If you haven't coached in the SEC, it's pretty damn difficult to come into a head coaching position if you've never been there. Same thing in Big Ten basketball. So my opinion, if Trev Albert wants to have a conversation with Fred at the end of the season, it's not unreasonable for him, to demand a plan on how he's going to get this program, on the top side. That's not unreasonable. It's not unreasonable to talk salary and make adjustments or suggest adjustments are being made, just like he did with Scott Frost. Fred Hoiberg, he might just say, nope, I'm not going to do that. He might, who knows? Fred Hoiberg is going to land on his feet. The day that he's cut loose here at Nebraska, he will have phone calls for opportunities to either coach or be in the front office of many programs, both at the college level and in the NBA. So
it was a very nice, rational, reasonable, logical monologue, Todd. You didn't. Yeah. I don't think you said the F word once. What
Fred Hoiberg needs to be the head coach for another
Fred.
season.
What I don't get is we gave Scott Frost a 7-year contract, and everybody thought, "Whoa, it'll take him 7 years to get it right." Apparently, Fred just whatever. And I realize he hasn't shown much progress, and it's been terrible. Go ahead, Greg. I keep cutting you off.
No, it's okay. I got two things. One, I want to piggyback off something that you said, John, and then I'll transition to a question or a rhetorical question from you that spawned from when you were talking. I'm certainly not advocating for the removal of Fred Hoiberg. And to what you said, Todd, he's trying to get players in. He's getting players into Nebraska that without Fred Hoiberg would never come to Nebraska.
Right.
Let's talk. I mean, there's nothing to talk about there. There's nothing to debate or discuss. You don't have a duo like you do with Bryce and Trey if Fred Hoiberg's not the head coach. And then something that you said, Todd, maybe stop and spawn off a similar question, but you said, or maybe not a question, but you said that everybody in the basketball world's standing there scratching their head, wondering how a Fred Hoiberg team, is not producing, not winning the games, that they're left scratching their heads. Are people in the basketball world, and I'm not trying to, dog on Nebraska, but are people in the basketball world surprised that Hoiberg even took the job? Because it's not a basketball school. Yes, there are the ties and they're the familial ties and things like that. But if you're a coach the caliber of Fred Hoiberg, I mean, like I said, I've said from the beginning, based on everything that I've read and observed, that we were and I still think are lucky to have Fred Hoiberg as the head coach of the Nebraska men's basketball team. But that is a guy, I mean, you both said it, the day he gets, his time ends here, unless, he retires after, leading Nebraska to 3 or 4 national championships, that type of thing, and he's like, oh, I've done all I could do. I've put my time into the basketball world. I've gotten Nebraska to the promised land and beyond. But the day his time ends at Nebraska will be the same day that his phone rings, somebody seeking to bring him on board. So I get all that. I guess my question would be, are there people out there scratching the heads like, what the hell's he even in Nebraska in the first place? You know?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Because this is a place where coaches' careers go to die. When we had our arguments about, I was the guy who I think I'm still the only media guy, if anybody wants to consider me media, that is publicly on the record saying Scott Frost should have been fired last year. Just flat out said it. Okay. And now I forgot where I'm going because my head hurts so bad, but God dang it. I think
you're talking about being the only media guy.
Yeah, about firing Scott Frost. I guess it goes back to the 7-year contract, the 3-9 record in 4 years, the comments that we hope the Big Ten adjusts to us, and how long it would take Fred Hoiberg. You know what it was? What I was going to say is this. I was also the guy that made the argument. There was constantly people saying, well, if we fire Scott Frost, who's going to come to Nebraska? Okay. You know what? I made the argument that a lot of people would come to Nebraska because we have a fan base, we have money, we have tradition, and we are traditional blue, we're blue blood powerhouse. And people want Nebraska football to be good. That isn't true for basketball. Who wants to come to this is a place where coaches' careers they go to die. And they might not die permanently, but they die for a while. Tim Miles got fired by us, and I really wished he hadn't have gotten fired. But how did Tim Miles get a job right away? No. Yeah. Doc Sadler, what did Doc Sadler do?
Became an assistant.
What happened to the guy that went to Butler?
Became an AD.
Danny Nee.
Got a head coaching job somewhere else after a while.
People are not going to just line up. You can name names and put them on the list, and they're going to go, why would I do this? Unless you give me an $18 million buyout, because you gave that other motherfucker one. So I want one too. The precedent's been set. Go ahead.
No,
I should make you host, and then you can mute me, Greg.
I think that there are people that honestly, there are Nebraska fans, because we've heard it with football too, that money should be no object. Throw all the money in the world at one of the big timers. I think that there are Nebraska fans, and I can't even believe I'm going to put this, say this. I think there's Nebraska fans that would be willing to throw as much money as it takes to bring Rick Pitino to Nebraska. I think there are Nebraska fans that would advocate for that. And Greg, my response is the same as yours.
I would hate to see it. It would be the end of all that is good and pure and righteous at Nebraska athletics.
Yeah. But there are fans that would advocate for that.
To be fair, there are also Nebraska football fans who only follow one other in-state team for basketball season, and we all know that they're bastards.
And we know that they're winning with a
Shut up, Todd.
with a coach that did not have the success at the same university across the river as Fred Hoiberg did.
Right.
Shut up, Todd.
I don't know. I guess it's disappointing to see the media people just, rise up, and they're like wolves. You know what I mean? Wolves sit around, and what they do is they separate somebody from the pack, and they wait until they're weak, and then they attack them. That's who these guys are.
I figured out that Nebraska media is not many times, and certainly in like national media, not necessarily sports. Most of the time it's the media that sets the narrative and, shapes and molds minds. But I really think with Nebraska athletic media, they take the pulse of the fan base and then cater or pander to, whatever they think the most subscribers want to hear or read or see or whatever. What you're not going to find at the 5 Heart podcast, Nebraska's only true unbiased podcast, is any of that bullshit.
That's probably because I'm too dumb to suck up at people. I've never,
and that's why we don't make any money. No,
Yeah.
no.
Well, you know,
John, you said something else earlier that you mentioned. We got to go back several minutes now, and if you don't remember, I don't blame you. But you said that for many Nebraska fans, they go, Husker football, and then there's like a dead period, and they say, okay, well, maybe I'll throw on basketball. Let's not forget that there is a strong contingent of the Big Red faithful who do, after football makes its unceremonious early departure from our athletic calendars, they do follow volleyball. So let's not forget to give John Cook his due. All the good things that he's doing there at the Bob. I don't know if it's still called the Bob. It was called the Bob when I was living in Nebraska.
Should be called the John.
that sounds weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do. How about the could? Just the kitchen.
The kitchen.
Yeah. Something like that.
Call it the John. Geez.
You know what it was called when we were there, Todd, right?
Takes me a little while, guys. Takes me a little while.
You know what they called it when we were there in school?
Devaney.
No. They called it the morgue. They called it the library. Did you ever go to a basketball game?
Me?
Yeah.
When I was a freshman,
I think I know the answer to
Montana,
that question.
When I was a freshman at the University of Montana, I went to all of the home games in Montana because they were really good, and we could sit courtside because I was on the wrestling team. And I did go when Montana played at Nebraska over winter break. I did go and watch Montana play against Nebraska, and that's the only basketball game I ever went to. Only Nebraska basketball game I ever went to.
Was the crowd excited?
Yeah, because they beat Montana.
I have a question. I don't know if we ever addressed this on the show, and maybe we have. Maybe it was on one of those several shows that I've missed in the last year. But Todd, I think I knew that you went to school, in a galaxy far, far away. Mm-hmm. And I guess I should have put two and two together, but I didn't know that you wrestled in college.
Yeah, I did. That's why I went to Montana.
Well, I mean, not too many people go to Montana just for the hell of it. No offense to the good people of Montana, who until I saw pictures of your winter, I actually considered moving to Montana. I said, no, I see all that snow. Hell with that. So enlighten me and by extension, all the viewers and listeners about your collegiate wrestling career.
Well, I'm
not trying to be a smart ass, I don't know.
My collegiate wrestling career was relatively short. At the time I went to Montana, it was a Division I program. Probably within 10 years of me leaving there, they dropped the program for, like everybody does, for cost cutting reasons and that kind of thing. But it was in the Big Sky Conference. It was a Division I program, and I chose to go out there. It's not like we didn't have Twitter, so we didn't announce what we were doing. I'm blessed, to accept.
He walked outside and yelled at his neighbors.
We did have no announcement at school. I didn't put a cap on. I didn't know that, but I ended up going out to the University of Montana. I picked them over. See, I was kind of smart too a while back, because my final three were University of Montana, Columbia University in New York, and the United States Military Academy, where I had an appointment.
Nice.
So I ended up going to Montana, and my career record as a Division I wrestler was 3-5. I was a 158 pounder, which is, boy, that's a long ways in the rearview mirror.
You ate that 158 pounder.
Yeah, I can say I did win my final collegiate match. I won at 177 pounds. And that was in large part because the guy who started the season, who was actually the number 158 pounder, he got healthy. He was injured, and that's when I filled in and wrestled at 158. But he came back, and won the spot back. And at a practice the night before we were wrestling our arch rival, Montana State, the Bobcats, I was working out with the 177 pounder. And when I was wrestling with him, he broke his leg. And I don't think maybe I did something. I'm not sure. But since I broke his leg, I was told by the head coach I was now wrestling 177, and which was 20 pounds heavier than what I'd ever wrestled before. So I went down to Bozeman and weighed in with my clothes on. And when they saw who was going to wrestle 177, they took their stud 177 pounder and bumped him up to 190 and put a reserve in to take on me because I was a 158 pounder with a losing record. And I beat him, and I beat him on a riding time point. It was the only time I ever had a riding time point. So then I came.
Did you tell him before you started I broke my own guy's leg, you motherfucker. What are you going to do? I'm riding your ass.
I'd have had that on a t-shirt. I broke what's his name's leg.
Well, but I'll tell you what, when I ended up at Montana, I came to Nebraska. I didn't know I was going to go to Nebraska. I just was coming back to the Midwest and ended up at Nebraska. But it became very apparent to me before the end of the wrestling season that to wrestle and compete at that level was going to take a lot more of a commitment than what I wanted to give the sport. Division I athletes, unless you have been one or unless you've been close to one, I don't think the most of us have no idea what kind of a commitment it takes to do that. And I realized very, very quick that I was not going to give that kind of commitment. And so I transferred to Nebraska. Yeah, I thought about reaching out to maybe walk on or whatever the wrestling program at Nebraska, but I discovered John
in the drinking.
I discovered John. I discovered Kurt. I discovered Jeff and Mac and all of those guys, and drinking beer and having a good time made it virtually impossible for me to ever consider being a competitive athlete again.
It's just, and I thank you very much for sharing that story, because in all of our many conversations now, I've never really heard, your origin story, and that's obviously only one small chapter of who you are, Todd. So I want to thank you for sharing that with us. But I was just talking to a friend about this earlier today. I certainly had the ability to stay out in Chadron and continue to do. I enjoyed what I did out in Northwest Nebraska, out in the Panhandle, calling ball games, being the voice of the Cardinals. But the compensation wasn't there, and I didn't know what I didn't know. But I looked at for all the friends that I would have retained and stay close to, I would have never met my wife. So you leaving Montana and ending up at Nebraska, sure enough, if that doesn't happen, you don't meet John, and you, obviously not just, I'm the benefactor of that because I get to hang out with you guys every week, but all the great memories that you've had and that John's forgotten.
Pretty much.
But the last 40-ish years, give or take, of your guys' lives, and things like that don't happen. It's we always look back like, I may or may not regret this, or I wish I could have adjusted that mistake. But every decision that we've ever made leads us to where we are right now. Yeah. So I'm thankful for the fact that you came back to the Midwest. I'm thankful that you met this grizzly guy that we're joined with, and I'm thankful again to be able to hang out with you guys. It's not the beer talking. That's all Greg. But I'm very blessed to be able to hang out with you guys. What happened, John?
Well, I thought Kobe Webster was coming on the court to fight with somebody, but it was his own player because they're rocking against Minnesota. I was just shocked by I think it was 47-32. Oh my God. Verge just inbounded the ball off a Gopher's back and scored. 47-32 with 12:49 left. They got to beat Minnesota. It's the one team that we have to beat in everything all the time.
Yeah, I hear you. And I'm the same way with Iowa.
I'm the same way with all of them.
With all of them, yeah. Well, Greg, we have what's going on with football right now?
We're in the lulls, man. The doldrums. Nothing going. Last week we talked about National Signing Day and the portal. And now we don't have anything really to discuss until spring football. I want to reach out to the commenters on YouTube. We are planning to talk about the position groups. So we're going to hang out, put that off until after spring football. Specifically, they asked about the offensive and defensive lines and special teams. We could probably have a special teams conversation before that, but I really want, and I think the fans deserve to have Hoiberg back to talk about the offensive and defensive lines. And I did reach out to him, and he's just bogged down. It's his last semester of school for his master's. And so he's just really bogged down right now. He said if we could reach out to him at the end of April or May. So we'll definitely talk about that. Definitely address that. I wanted to make sure that folks knew, because we are reading your comments. We appreciate all of your feedback, whether it's on a YouTube or on Core Nation. What's up, John?
We'll see what the comments are this week.
It should be fine.
Maybe we
haven't offended anybody yet.
We have another segment we should tap into. I just read that one of our most successful teams at the University of Nebraska is going to make the first appearance on the Big Ten Network for the sport of bowling. Our
women's
bowling team will play on Big Ten Network, I think this weekend, making the first appearance of bowling on that network. How's that?
Well, that's different. I guess. Do the Big Ten teams? Are there other Big Ten?
I don't think so.
Because I get the press releases, right? And I mean,
all right, so I've got the official right word now, here.
Okay, go ahead.
Make sure I get it. Sunday, February 27th.
Okay,
it's the final match of the Big Red Invitational from Hollywood Bowl, beginning at 11 a.m. Former coach, Husker coach Bill Straub and veteran broadcaster Larry Puntney will call the action, as the Huskers will wrap up the 3-day event with the best of 7 Baker format match that day. Nebraska's won 8 national titles since becoming a varsity sport in 1998. Think about that. So yeah, it'll be the Big Red Invitational is 3 days. Of course, it's the February 25th, 26th, and 27th in Lincoln at the Hollywood Bowl. The Huskers are ranked 3rd nationally, returning 3 All-Americans from last year's NCAA championship team, including NTCA Bowler of the Year Crystal Elliott.
There you go. So, another thing to be proud of being a Husker fan.
Amen. Again, we've been seeing it for years now. The women's sports are carrying the guys by the jockstrap. That's
not
right.
So fast, my friend.
Wrestling. You're going to give us a wrestling update.
No. It's 9 days from what?
Opening day. Baseball.
Ding, ding, ding.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. The wicked witch, the wicked witch.
Are we going to go into baseball? We're at 54 minutes.
No, we're not.
Baseball for next week.
We're fine. We got time. It's fine. We're only at about 40 minutes.
Are we? Okay.
Yeah.
If we could touch
you two started talking before I got here. So we're fine. Greg was late again, everybody. I got kids. What can I say?
Okay. Todd, what do we know about baseball?
Well,
I know this. I'll say this, and I'll just admit it to people. Here's the problem I have with baseball right now. I literally said this in the Slack room. My memory is bad enough that if it's not been cycled through my memory like within a month or so, I have to start relearning shit. So I have to go back and start relearning all the baseball players' names again, which is really a sad fucking way to live, but that's my life. One name that I thought of, I'd sat down and I thought, who are our baseball players? Mojo Hagee. He's gone.
After 17 years at Nebraska, he has graduated.
Max Anderson.
He is back. He will be a sophomore.
Back. And Kyle Perry.
He's back.
He's never going anywhere.
Yeah.
Colby
They need to
Gomez.
keep him around. He should become the next media. He should be the Jen Psaki of Nebraska athletics. Spokesperson. That's what I'm looking for.
Let's just say spokesperson. We don't need to invoke evil.
Sorry.
Alex Gordon.
Gone. Well,
is he going back to coach?
He's a
is he going back to coach?
Right?
He was a third baseman, and so is Max Anderson.
What about that really big guy? Ledbetter.
He is on the staff.
Ledbetter.
Yep.
So
Curtis.
I am looking forward to baseball season.
Cam
That's what I
Chick.
know about it right now.
Cam Chick is back.
Cam
Chick
Chick is
Cam
back.
Chick.
They had a press conference today, with Coach Bolt, and I think Kyle Perry talked. Kyle Perry and Shea Shannon, Cam Chick, they're three of the four captains. The other one, can't remember who the other one is. Another Nebraska kid. You got three of them. Three of the four captains are Nebraska.
Joba somebody.
That'd be
Joba
Joba
Chamberlain?
And yeah, he's in the past, John.
Okay.
So
Next thing you're gonna be like, Darren Erstad, he's coming back to play, right?
Hey.
Without going into a whole lot of detail, the common theme is that nearly everything is wide open this year, and they still are not settled on what a starting lineup or what the starting rotation is going to look like. You got to figure that Kyle Perry's going to be in the weekend rotation. I would guess that Shea Shannon is going to be in the rotation. Jake Buns, maybe he was at times last year, but they also are bringing in some transfer players, Dawson McCarville and Mason or Orny Ellis, but who knows what's going to happen there. But here's the one, this is the player, and we don't need to dissect the whole team and season, but here's a player that has been overlooked the whole offseason. And that's Mr. Gomez and Colby Gomez. Am I got the right name right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yep.
And
is it Gomez? Is it Gomes?
no, it's Gomez. It's
Okay.
Gomez. And he's a kid from Millard that missed all of last season because of surgery. And, before that, he came in as a freshman, and they played him some at first base, and he hit. And he didn't pitch that first year that he was here because he'd had some arm issues, at the end of his high school career. Then the next season, he did pitch. They have him penciled in as the closer right now. And they're saying that after his surgery and rehab and that kind of stuff, the kid is just absolutely throwing smoke, and he's developed a splitter. I think that would be a great story, for the Nebraska team this year, if after, undergoing everything that he has, if he can, have some success. And, we all know, even if we're a casual fan, we all know how important a good closer is on the team. Schleppenbach, last year was pivotal in the success of the team. So
Is he gone? He is gone. He got drafted.
He's gone. So
I want to mention two things real quick. One, let's talk a little bit about the disrespect that Nebraska continues to get because they, I believe, were ranked behind Michigan in some of the preseason rankings. Or
who ranked
Michigan was ranked
Michigan?
in
one of the polls had him behind.
Yeah,
Michigan.
which one? Baseball America?
No, it came out before Baseball America. I can't remember which one.
All right. So at least it's not a unanimous choice.
They ranked Michigan up there because everybody loves that. What is it? Eric Bakich?
The coach. Yeah.
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 They've made the College World Series. So
number two, I don't think we've talked about. I'm sure we talked about it when he came on board if my memory is correct, but let's not understate the importance of Rob Childress, back in director of player development.
Right. Yeah.
And, that's a big get, talk about an experienced voice there on the staff, not like the bullpen staff necessarily, but in the baseball staff for Will Bolt. So good things. I mean, at this point, let's face it, like baseball's men's sports real only hope.
Well, don't count wrestling out, but
okay. Hey, real quick, gymnastics, who got a very special visitor this week.
What other men's gymnastics team has the presence such that Simone Biles would show up to watch them compete?
I'll tell you which ones. None of them.
That is pretty cool. I mean, you have to admit that.
Yeah.
Yeah, tremendous. So I don't know. They must be doing something right. Of course, I'm not trying to slight the gymnastics squad. It's just not a what.
Keep going.
Are you laughing at my constant disclaimers? John's got to go to the bathroom. I think we're getting to John. I think we're affecting his night. But it's, gymnastics isn't something that we talk about. It's not something, we don't really, Todd's obviously a specialist in wrestling. John's a specialist in everything. And I'm a specialist in getting the audio up on the website. So we all have the things that we bring to the show. But it looks like, John, you okay, bud?
Well, I have an essential oil. This is going to make me sound like really the hippie freak, but I do. When my headaches get bad enough, I use an essential oil called Past Tense on my head, and it invariably gets in my eyes because I'm a moron, and it burns like hell. Nebraska is up 55-43 with 8:45 left. I hope they pull this game out, and by the time people hear this, it'll be Friday morning. What else about baseball? We have expectations that are so huge for baseball.
I do, and I hope that they can live up to them. But Greg, just to follow up on something you said real quick, bringing Rob Childress in is huge, and he's kind of going to be the Yoda to Will Bolt, and
a little taller, a little less green.
And when Childress left here, he had roots. He had roots here, and I don't think to people who were familiar with the program, when he came with Van Horn, he fell in love with the state of Nebraska. And I think a lot of people, there's probably some people listening tonight that don't realize that when after Dave Van Horn left, it came down to Rob Childress and Mike Anderson. They were kind of co-coaches in a way. But then obviously one of them had to be selected as the head coach, and they picked Mike Anderson. And, Coach Childress hung around for another year being, the pitching coach, and then he left to Texas A&M. So I'm not going to say anything disparaging about, Coach Anderson, because he took him to the College World Series. But I think a lot of people that were close to the program are not surprised at all that Coach Childress, returned to Nebraska. I think that he, at one point in time, probably figured that he'd be back. So
there is a coach we're not mentioning.
Pardon?
John Sanders.
Yeah, and John Sanders was the head coach when we were students. And living in Harper Strand Smith, that was just a short little walk to Buck Belzer. And I spent many an afternoon and many a weekend, sitting in the bleachers watching John Sanders teams play. And John Sanders, big, tall, redheaded guy, and he had kind of barked a little bit in his voice. And I always thought he was kind of a tough guy, but I do know from what players have said that he's a pretty kind-hearted person as well. And I took, because I was a history and a physical education major in the teachers college, and I took coaching of baseball, and Coach Sanders was the instructor. And I can tell you that, I mean, in fact, it's ironic because I had kept a binder this thick that was the same information that he gave to all the players. It was everything, every philosophy, every mechanics, every scheme and situation that he taught his baseball players on his team. And that was our textbook. And holy moly, some of those days he'd come in and, he'd say, okay, we're going to talk about shortstop play, or we're going to talk about, relays and cutoffs. Holy smokes. That's why I've said, that kind of gave me one of the first impressions of what a layperson's knowledge is of pick the sport is nothing compared to that level that Division I college coaches in general are on. It's just incredible.
I mean, Buck Belcher was basically like a community baseball person. I mean, I kind of remember it. I remember, what was that Mount Buck that they had out there where they were, do you remember that? Big mound of dirt, didn't they call it Mount Buck?
Van Horn's year. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, him keeping the baseball program going all those years when his facilities were basically, I don't know, your town home park. That's what they were.
Well, it looked like it. But, they also were able to play a lot of games there where other games were getting rained out because they had that AstroTurf infield. But, John Sanders and, his son played at Nebraska, was a pitcher at Nebraska, and went on and had a professional career. And, but John Sanders was very good for Nebraska baseball, but like a lot of coaches, sometimes if you can't keep the momentum going and when things start to slide, you need to do something a little different. That's when they let him go and they brought David Van Horn in. So.
Great words there on Coach Sanders, of course, who the baseball world, the Husker family, and planet Earth lost here recently. I believe it was, as this is dropping Friday morning, I think it was this past Saturday. So of course, he will be missed by those who were close to him, and I'm sure all the players who played for him over all those years. So. It is time to go, guys. We have just barely passed our 45-minute mark, but we're still under an hour, and we appreciate everybody who's stuck with us, as always, on YouTube or listening to the podcast. If you find it on coordination.com, or if you subscribe to it on any of the many podcast platforms that it is on. I myself, despite the fact that I host the show, subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts. I know you can get it there, Google Play, and many more. So we appreciate your listening. We appreciate your comments, and we appreciate you telling other good Husker fans about what we're doing here at Coordination, not just the podcast, of course, but the site in general. We do it for you because we're still going to have these conversations internally, but we like to, share our thoughts and provide a different perspective on things, maybe something that's a little more coarse, but a little more honest. Take that, Steve Sipple, you son of a bitch. I don't know, Sip. I don't.
We'll see what people. I just go back to the Fred Hoiberg thing. I think it's just, I don't know. I guess I just irritated with the media people that are just hounding on this because they can. And I realize this basketball season has been really disappointing and abysmal. And I wish we would have seen more progress, but I guess I'd stay the course just because we haven't ever seen this talent level at Nebraska. And sometimes it takes a long time to figure things out. I mean, Tim Miles had 7 years. And he kind of started figuring it out, and he had some decent teams, but I don't know.
The pressure was really on the program. I didn't mean to interrupt you, John, but the pressure was really on the program when Northwestern won their tournament game, and that left us the only Division I program to not have a tournament win. But right now, we just got to get to the show, and we'll get there, and just like we preach patience on football, we'll get back to winning seasons and bowl games and then New Year's bowl games and then whatever the timeout. Stop. I didn't say when.
No,
Oh,
I
you're
was
talking about the
watching
game?
basketball.
Okay, I thought you were reacting to what I was saying. I say, and whatever the playoff system looks like, down the road, we'll get there. Just practice patience. Yeah, what's
I'm
entertaining
kind of
going
a
on in the
mess
game, John?
tonight, aren't I? Well, Bryce
you're
McGowan's
fine.
went up for a shot, got flattened by a guy, and as he's falling backwards, throws the ball up in the air, and it just goes in. And of course, he gets the 3 points. That's the Nebraska needs. What we need is two things for this basketball team to be successful. And he's got big guys coming in next year. All right. Alec Koyunets is sitting on the bench this season. He's got recruits coming in that are big guys. Derek Walker has played well, but he can't be the only guy. Eduardo Andre does decent, hasn't developed as far as you'd want him to, but he needs experience. And then it would be really nice if Bryce McGowan's returned. But he needs guys to return. You know what I mean? We need guys to come back. And we saw what happened with the football team when the super seniors returned on defense.
Well,
So,
you have to have a foundation. You have to have some stability. You're absolutely right. And I'll be honest with you, Todd, I know we didn't intend to circle back to basketball. I know it's your least favorite sport of all. But it is the game that's going on now as Nebraska is a few minutes away from, we're recording this Wednesday night, obviously a few minutes away from what could be, what very well may be their first conference win of the season.
Well, that would be wonderful. That would be great.
It would be tremendous. I'd be tickled to death.
It'd be a win streak all the way to the first NCAA tournament win.
There you go. On a run.
Maybe the third NCAA tournament game.
Wow. Okay.
So, with those high hopes, that'll do it for this episode of the Five Heart Podcast. We want to thank, as always, Todd Wolverton for joining us. And, of course, our fearless leader and founder, John Dam Johnston. I'm Greg Mahochko, reminding you this week and every week that Five Heart is all the heart you need. John?
Go Big Red.
Todd?
9 days, no booze, no Scott Frost criticism.